6 is through and done, and with that, I can safely say, I really don't know. You know what, let's just get the ball rolling. The Big 12. What else needs to be said? Yeah, I've got some words. TCU. The fuck? The rumor that the Horned Frogs sold their souls for the playoff win 2 years ago against Michigan seems to have come to fruition. Everything after it has been a disaster, but this is rock bottom. You came into this game as a 16.5 point favorite. You barely scored over that against Houston. You won 10 out of 11 against this team since 1991 and just came off a win against Kansas, and this is how you show your improvement? Josh Hoover looked lost in this game against a team who struggled to get consistent pressure on Jackson fucking Arnold. The most revolting stat is that Houston scored more points tonight than every other game this season combined. Not to mention they got shut out 2 weeks in a row before Zion Chris came in and put 100 yards passing and rushing on you. Stats like this are what get coaches canned. This is pathetic. You've croaked for the season because there's no coming back for this one. Of course, congratulations to Houston and Willie Fritz for getting his first Big 12 win. Definitely a lot of improvement in the future seasons, and as for the Horned Frogs, you owe Haley Van Lith an apology pronto. At least Savion Williams is canonically on the freak list. A historic matchup right here between two squads with some sort of recent relevance. You'd have to think at some point Oregon will realize that they're playing at 50% every week and it won't win them any national championships. Are they hiding their offense for next week? Only time will tell. But once again, Dylan Gabriel struggled to establish a consistent passing game. He had his great moments, but then they were followed by boneheaded interceptions. For whatever reason, Evan Stewart has been extremely lackluster in the receiving department, despite being one of the most supposed significant pickups for the Ducks in the offseason. Tez Johnson, however, has had his great moments. Nonetheless, the story in this game was the Iron Curtain of the Oregon defensive line with 5 sacks and 6 tackles for loss, partly due to Aiden Childs folding like a dollar store lawn chair at the slightest hint of pressure, but still a great performance nonetheless. Unfortunately for Sparty, the gauntlet continues down the stretch, as your schedule will continue with the brutality. Oregon has their own brutality to go through with hosting the Buckeyes, which could potentially set up another game of the century. It only depends on whether or not the Ducks are actually hiding their offense. Side note, those uniforms are sick. There's always room for at least one episode of Friday Night Chaos, and this is where we found it. While neither of these teams are competing for title contention, they are two well-respected teams having a hell of a year so far considering their expectations. UNLV's drama in regards to their quarterback was something in which I thought would hold them back the rest of the way, but clearly it made no distinct difference in their style. Haj Malik Williams had 4 touchdowns and over 200 yards passing and had a decent run game to go along with it. Good thing too, because Kyle McCord is one of the transfer quarterbacks who seem to have found his team. 350 yards passing is nothing short of what we've seen from him in earlier games. This was a definitive classic shootout that ended in a climactic way that all games like these should. Overtime. Though UNLV looked like they had them late, the Qs clawed their way back in to put it in there. UNLV would leave it to the defense to win the day as they had to settle for a field goal. But could they do it?
It's Kyle McCord. Pressure is on. Pass gets through to Allen. What a tackle! Woodard stops him at the line of scrimmage, but a flag at the end of the play.
We all seem to have forgotten the real winner of these games is always ref ball. You could be mad about this, but UNLV brought it themselves into this position with 2 drop picks and missed tackles. Earn your loss with pride.
Trying to win it for Syracuse. Gives it to Allen. Allen is stopped by Woodard. Still going. No! He gets through! Allen gets through! He wins the game!
'Twas fun while it lasted in Vegas. Speaking of which, bettors have to be pissed right now. Regardless, this is a great win for Syracuse, who now claims their second top 25 win in 5 games. A momentum-shifting season for first-year head coach Fran Brown. Through Quint Alley and Kyle McCord, they are surviving this season by sheer will. Let's see if they can keep it up. This is the biggest win for the ACC since Florida State got invited to a New Year's 6. Let's hope it doesn't crash and burn like they did. Anyone wondering if UCLA is regretting joining USC in the Big Ten? Their brother had the materials to be competitive in this conference on a yearly basis. UCLA, however, has joined the ranks of Purdue in terms of competition. Over in the significantly concerned Valley, Penn State once again attempted to play offense as their defense did all of the work. Drew Allar wasn't impressive, but he did what he needed to and didn't force any mistakes. Penn State's offense being held to only 85 yards rushing is very concerning. UCLA's been decent in defending a rush, but the Nittany Lions need a big run game in order to have a decent offense this season. I don't trust Alar in big time games, and I don't trust the coaches do either. Despite all of this, however, the Bruins refused to take advantage of any of the Nittany Lion stagnation and proceeded to beat themselves. You may embrace the tank at this point because there's nothing good coming for you in the future. Penn State will finally get the chance for a statement next week as they'll be heading to Southern California. If you're not able to get a decent run game against Lincoln Riley's defense, Lord Almighty help y'all. Firstly, I want to apologize in highlighting skepticism in Texas A&M being ranked. Yes, it is true that the last few weeks they've watched teams like Arkansas beat themselves in football, but this has been without the star of the show. The Slayer has returned, Wayman is back, and he wants blood. The blood of frauds particularly. Mizzou got exposed against Vandy previously, and the expectation was that after their bye week they would come out much stronger. Theo Weiss got the warning sign before the game began. Though he tried to show his adversity in this game, Brady Cook decided the fans in the stands and the grass on the ground were better receivers to throw to. A&M had a lease on the Missouri pocket with 6 sacks and 8 tackles for loss as the Tigers had no answers in response. Luther Burden, who has been the ace factor, was held to less than 100 yards receiving, and if you're able to do that, you're more than likely able to win the game. You know which player did pop off though? Le'Veon Moss. He had over 100 yards and 3 touchdowns. Texas A&M is back in the conversation of competitiveness in the SEC, as they actually have the best conference record. They've got some big-time games in the future, but this was one of them. How can they blow this is the major question we've all been asking. As for Missouri, we all knew it already, but you had your year of success. Reality has come crawling back, and it sounds a little something like this. You spent all offseason claiming that you were one of the big boys only to shit on your own foot against a team sharing a ranking with UNLV, who also lost. You deserve this, Mizzou. For you, you get the special gift of Clown of the... Huh? What was that about? Oh well, who cares? Next game. Louisville is the same team that put Notre Dame back into the quote, playoff conversation. So no surprise that it's now their turn to make SMU look like contenders as well. As I keep saying, they are a forgettable team. Good enough to avoid being a laughingstock, but they'll always find a way to avoid competing for anything more prestigious than the Holiday Bowl. They've now reached the acceptance state in the cycle. Tyler Shaw had a successful day with over 300 yards through the air, but SMU had something that Louisville lacked, a dual threat. Kevin Jennings shredding through the defense in every way possible. The only way to compete against it was to go blow for blow with them. It's exactly what the Cardinals did. Only a turnover can flip the scales of this game.
Right up the gut goes Brashard Smith. Dragging tacklers. The ball pops out. Was he down? Louisville's got a fumble recovery at the 5-yard line.
With SMU scoring, Shuck would have to clutch up on the final drive to give us another possible great overtime match.
See what happens on 4th down. Shuck is going to put it up in the end zone. And it is intercepted.
Or he'll throw it into triple coverage and blow the game for Louisville. Sad thing is, this was Shuck's best performance all season, but bad defense and over-reliance on Ja'Cory Brooks sealed your fate. Give credit to the Pony Excess though, as they are now 5-1 with everything still in front of them. BYU's resume only gets stronger. After the choke job against USC in the gauntlet that Wisconsin has been going through, they've needed an FCS opponent to chill out and relax against. Luckily for them, and many others in the Big Ten, they'll have one on their schedule. The Soilermakers cured the offensive sickness that Wisconsin was suffering from, allowing them to put up half 100 on them as well as over 500 yards of offense. Watching Purdue is the football equivalent of what happens when you put Alex Grinch and Brian Ferentz on the same coaching staff. Football genocide. Marcavius Brown getting dismissed earlier in the week should have been a warning call. Wisconsin could have punted on 1st down every drive and somehow they still would have won the game. They don't play football. This now marks 18 wins in a row for Wisconsin in the rivalry and probably many more in the future because one program is trending somewhere a whole lot better than the other. I didn't say upwards yet because we have no idea if Wisconsin will show up against a decent team yet. We'll be waiting, Luke Fickell. We'll be waiting. Welcome to the great battle of how do these teams only have one loss each? Considering the fact the Golden Eagles had to come from behind against Western Kentucky, they've got some work to do to earn back their merit. Virginia off a bye week was ready for them. Boston College had all the momentum early in the game, scoring 14 points early on, but just when they missed him, he returned. The classic, legendary Bill O'Brien offense. And what'd they do? Fuck all. They played the game of letting the defense do all the work. By the time they realized they didn't have the talent to do that, they became so accustomed to the Bill O'Brien offense that they couldn't exist offensively. Of course, it wasn't a traditional Bill O'Brien offense without the outlandishly stupid mistake.
Castellanos surveying, now running, loses the football. It's picked up by Virginia. Jonas Senker going the other way. Touchdown, Virginia!
Is this a macrocosm of the team or the conference they reside in? Good question. We'll find out soon enough. The Cavaliers have snuck to a 4-1 record, blowing expectations out of the water. We'll see if they can keep the momentum going forward as next week Jeff Brom is coming to town. Maybe this time he'll bring a consistent offense with him. Come on, we all knew the Pitt collision course wouldn't end this early on. Eli Holstein was far from done sucking the blood out of the lives of his opponents.
Holstein the other direction, and it's intercepted by North Carolina. Caleb Koss. One man to beat and no problem.
Okay, pretend that didn't happen. As I was previously saying, Eli Holstein was far from done sucking the blood out of the lives of his opponents, and today's result was no exception. 450 yards of offense behind him was a traditional day for the North Carolina defense. That being said, who's coaching defense here? Watching these two defenses trying to cover is like taking a lethal dose of laxatives and then prairie dogging while trying to not let anything come out. Weird analogy, but you get it, and that's what matters. That being said, North Carolina's defense is as aggressive as a sloth, so shredding them was no challenge at all. Since the offense was having to play catch-up for most of the day, it was a losing battle till the end. The Pitt Revolution is on a roll, 5-0 and no signs of stopping soon. Mac Brown's days on the sideline are minimal at this point. Bro is old enough to remember when Cam McCormick was a high school player. To make matters worse, you've been banished to the CW network for next week's game against the Jackets, who own you.
Son of a bitch! I'm out!
Speaking of the CW, look who's been thrown to the realm of irrelevance. NC State is hanging on by a thread trying to redeem whatever they want to call a season for them. Wake Forest is one step ahead of what Purdue is, only because they at least attempt to play football. Though the Wolfpack still has things in front of them with Grayson McCall starting again, that stupid-ass bug had other plans.
The ball is loose and it's picked up by Wake Forest. Taking off the other way is Evan Slocum. Still on his feet inside the 40. He's got two men to beat down the sideline. Cuts it back to the inside and he's going to take it to the house.
Not only was this a scoop and score, but Grayson McCall is injured again. This time, it's possibly much more serious. Being carted off the field, he might be done for the year. Nonetheless, prayers for a quick recovery. This result depends on the sheer athleticism of the offense, as the offensive line were like Twitter moderators and refused to block anybody. CJ Bailey played a hell of a lot better than Hank Bachmeier, but at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is scoring. And Wake somehow managed to do just a little bit more of that than they did. Thus, with a minute left, Bailey would have to establish his clutch factor in order to win the game for... Wait a minute, he has a clutch factor?
Respond with a minute one remaining. Good protection. And he throws an interception on the first play.
Yeah, that's about what I thought. A huge win for Dave Clawson at a significant time in his time at Wake. Dave Dorian is another coach who has reached his fake it or make it at this point. Either CJ Bailey awakens his redemption arc in the later games, or we witness the downfall of Dave Dorian. Yes, it would be considered a downfall if they go from 8 wins a year to 5. Letting a quarterback who completed only 50% of his passes beat you is how you kick off the nosedive. Many games in college football do not go as predicted. In fact, it's very rare they do. Here's one of the very few exceptions. Iowa continues to struggle with the disease called forgetting how to play on one side of the ball. Cade McNamara once again looked like he came into this game after hammering 12 different flavored buzz bombs all at once, and without a well-established run game, it all but guaranteed the offense would not be scoring any points today. Ohio State has been lackluster on offense because of the weak play calling, but the high-end talent prevents them from turning into Iowa. They are literally too talented to lose these games. I'm not sure what the weight of Emeka Egbuka or Jeremiah Smith's paycheck looks like, but whatever it is, it needs a massive buff. One-handed catches in coverage that not many other receivers can catch. Even when Iowa scored, nobody cared. Brad Nessler never sounded so bored. As you would expect, Ohio State is one of the most dominant teams in college football, and unlike the SEC, which will be beating the piss out of each other, they have the Big Ten in their grasp. We've known this for weeks now, with more recent results adding more confirmation. I wonder if any of the other top teams in the country look this good. Maybe. I don't know. Look at that. One of them actually did show up. Unfortunately, Satan was the one to do. Okay, bias aside, what do we expect? Georgia, like many of their other games, came out extremely sluggish in the first half. Least shocking news of the century right there. Luckily, the schedule lined up pretty well, as while they did lose to Alabama, the letdown performance couldn't ever be bad enough to even think about losing to Auburn. Auburn would sooner beat themselves than beat Georgia. That's pretty much what happened. Like Ohio State, Georgia is just too talented to lose these types of games. Check down Beck was efficient in his game plan as eventually Auburn's defense caved. Without a doubt, the most stunning news of the day is that Auburn had 0 turnovers. No way! This could potentially be the most shocking news of the entire day. Anyway, despite Auburn being 2 scores behind for most of the game, it was never in doubt. What were they gonna do? Score? Pfft, nah, Auburn's gonna do their own thing. Georgia's high-end talent would get another week to sleepwalk as Mississippi State is their next opponent. Damn it! Why can they not just lose a game? Last week was a glorious time in college football history! Piss! For Auburn, they are coming up on the best week of their season. The week they don't play football. Cherish this week, Barner. You're free of suffering temporarily. It's Cocktober, everyone. Does anyone care about this revelation? Certainly not Lane Kiffin. After spending a week in the circus, they intend to redeem their image by winning out because that's probably the only way they make the playoffs. Carolina is a team that many are picking to be the one to claim an upset this week, but the Gamecocks remembered that they were supposed to be bad this year, and thus they did what they do best. Absolutely nothing. Ole Miss tried to do what Georgia and Ohio State did and let the high-end talent do all the work, but they weren't quite talented enough to pull that off. Nonetheless, whatever they didn't do, South Carolina made sure to remedy that by doing Jack Diddy. Lenora Sellers had an easier time running out of the pocket than he did staying in it. The run game was near non-existent, and that's in fault to the fact that the offensive line was getting bullied all night long. As Jackson Dart shredded the secondary, Shane Beamer was thinking about what item he'd like to cook when he eventually starts his shift at McDonald's. This was so bad that Kiffin didn't even have to tell any of his players to go down and pretend that they have leg aids. Well, not as many at least. If you need any proof that transitive property in college football is a myth, South Carolina destroyed Kentucky, Kentucky beat Ole Miss, and Ole Miss destroyed South Carolina. It's the trifecta of bullshit. For at least the next few weeks, Kiffin would stay at Ole Miss rather than bail for Florida, which everyone was expecting if they lost today. The Gamecocks are getting thrown to the #1 team in the country next week in Alabama, as they are riding high after their win against Georgia. So good luck, I guess. What's with the delay in the transition? What? Sports analysts will continue to ignore this team and not give them any credit for their continued dominance in the college football world. Sooner or later, they'll be forced to. Indiana is America's team. Northwestern is a team. It was another complete and strong performance by the team projected to finish last in the conference. Curtis Rourke made mincemeat of the Northwestern secondary, and they had little to answer to counter with. Sure, the Indiana secondary had its issues in this game, but the dominance on offense shut any concern down. Indiana is the reaper of death, and they have a promise to fulfill this season. The expectation? Cause chaos. The score is close at some point, but Northwestern never had a chance. The football gods have made their choice. The Reaper had another body to siege. Indiana is not only 6-0, but they are the first team here to get this prestigious award of bowl eligibility. Alright! Who could have predicted that the Hoosiers would be the first team to pull this off? If you said you did, you're a liar, and even Indiana fans will call you out on it. Well, in case you needed confirmation of whether or not the California supremacy arc in the ACC is dead, here's what you've been looking for. Virginia Tech, who was thought to be tapped out for the season, became resurrected behind the arm of Kyron Drones. 200 yards is nothing crazy, but when the opposing team is tackling like they wrap themselves in baby oil before the game, it checks out well for the Hokies. It's abundantly clear how significant the loss of Ashton Daniels was for Stanford, as their glorified quarterback tryout was a complete mess. I know the team colors look similar, but from your point of view, one's home, one's away. Learn the difference. A great comeback win for Tech considering they had to travel coast to coast to get it. Stanford has camouflaged themselves well into the ACC. Beating a well-respected Syracuse to turn around and lose to a team who lost to Vandy is ugly indeed. Hard to find things more embarrassing than losing to a Commodore. Again, the delay on the transition. Come on, editor, get it together, man! Well, Rutgers walked so Indiana could run. And that is really all it boils down to. Putting this game on the multi-view is the equivalent of putting pineapple on a fourth of a pizza. You just have to try your best not to look at it. Both quarterbacks had the aim of a boner pissing in a toilet with the seat down. Both Dylan Raiola and Athan Krakatoa had more interceptions than passing touchdowns. A stat like that is exactly how you lose. But since both quarterbacks shared the embarrassment, what followed was a stalemate of epic proportions. It was literally stoppable force meets movable object. That being said, Nebraska scored 2 touchdowns and decided that that was enough for the day. If the offense wouldn't show up for Rutgers, leave it to the special teams to force them to score. Is what I would say if Rutgers decided to block for more than a nanosecond. Rutgers would finally wake up with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, but of course, by that point it was just a little bit too late. Though Rutgers' reign of tyranny is over, Nebraska is now 1 win away from bowl eligibility. Every year until now, they've found a way to royally fuck it up in embarrassing fashion. If they pull it off this year, it'll be more humiliating than any other season. They've got a bye to think about it before they battle against the true rating terror machine who just got bowl eligibility. The Huskers have indisputable odds to overcome. Mike. Oh, Mike. What the hell happened to you? This is now your 3rd straight loss in a season you really needed to capitalize on. The insanity of the Big 12 is never going to end, is it? West Virginia's offense took a major step forward this week as they were able to do basically whatever they wanted. Once again, the Cowboys have another game where everyone on the team goes on vacation. Not sure where else they go, what the hell is vacation like about Stillwater? Garrett Green went through the defense like a hot knife through butter. The Cowboys had nothing to answer with, especially since the answer in question is supposed to be Alan Bowman. But big surprise, he's donkey doo-doo ass. Ollie Gordon has been a major disappointment this season as well. He's virtually nowhere to be found. Not to the fault of him, but rather the play calling. You have one of the best weapons in the backfield, but no, let's give it to the 50-year-old version of Peyton Thorne. Not only is this the 3rd straight loss for Oklahoma State, but every week they look progressively worse. The Mountaineers have reset their season expectations from fire Neil Brown to possibly fire somebody depending on the rest of the year. As for Mike Gundy, he's got some heavy questions about the state of the program ahead. Let's hope no journalists write about the quarterback situation. Remember that one time in the offseason when people hyped up this matchup? This is what you get for hyping up anything in the ACC. People could have predicted Florida State's downfall, but the prediction for this game was that Clemson would run away with it instantly. Clemson's offense has been on fire as of lately, and now they are a favorite to run the ACC. However, Florida State has found new life. Risen from the grave of Florida State football is the change everyone has been waiting for. Brock Glenn is starting for the offense. Did it suddenly revolutionize their offense? No. They're going to need a whole lot more help than a quarterback change. The Noles still can't run the ball for anything more than 50 yards in the game. And when you're putting up all the pressure on the quarterback in his first ever start, it was a losing battle for him. Despite Clemson sleepwalking through the other 3 quarters and having 2 field goals blocked, the lead they gained in the first was enough to take care of business. It was just too much weight on Glenn's shoulders. Even though they lost, Florida State has at least a little bit of momentum for improvement to prevent a complete meltdown. You still have a chance to make it to the Squidtard Bowl. At least you are making an attempt to adjust. Some coaches can't do that. For example... Alright, well I did the Tank Bowl and the intro imitation. Might as well complete the trifecta. This week, on Days of Our Vols. I want my money back! You plan on implementing a 10% talent fee on tickets for fans, and for what? So that they can watch this? You had a bye week to prepare for a road match against Arkansas, and once again, Josh Heupel and his staff has laid a complete egg on the road in conference play. Every time the Vols get into a situation where the pressure is really on them, they crumble. Nika Mbatafombolabalia had a horrible day. Despite being a mobile quarterback, he looked like he surgically put on DJ Ukulele's feet. Of course, the fault was definitely not with him alone. The offensive line was supposed to be the strong suit, but as per the norm, Greg Ellerby does nothing but watches the line get run over. I'm just as qualified for the job. I can do nothing too! Without a doubt, the worst part of this team's performance was the play calling. Constant, shady play calling. It's not even that they're just playing conservative. They're playing like a bunch of pansy asses. What's that? The bubble screen didn't work? Well, gotta run it up the middle now. What's that? The run up the middle didn't work? Well, bring out the bubble screen again. They won't see it coming the 19th time. This is a complete failure of offensive play calling. Yes, you have a title contending defense, but as it turns out, they aren't superhuman. When they're on the field for 50 minutes of the game, they get tired. Even when they get off, 3 runs up the middle and they're right back on the field. The Arkansas Razorbacks have been getting beat by the Arkansas Razorbacks for several weeks now, but leave it to the Tennessee Volunteers to one-up them by losing to the entire universe all at once. All of it culminated in Tyson Chicken taking the lead with a minute left in the game. What's that, you say? Tennessee's going down the field? Actual development on offense? Gee, sure do wish we tried that 59 minutes ago! If there was anybody to rely on to win the day for the Volunteers, it would be the defense. But since they aren't there to bail Heupel out once again, another fee came ringing. Karma.
Yamaliaba, this is going to be the last play of the game. Scrambles and is shoved out of bounds. No time left. Arkansas.
I'm questioning life right now. No matter who's there on the coaching staff or on the field, one constant remains certain. Tennessee will always be Tennessee. And that alone deserves Clown of the... What? No! This team absolutely deserves Clown of the... Whatever. Screw it. It's not that important anyway. But if we lose to Florida next week, though, fire everyone! The National Championship rematch. Did it live up to the hype? Well, that depends on your definition of hype. Do you like watching 2 offenses attempting not to offense? Well, then ride that hype train. What's that? Michigan's lack of a passing game is coming back to bite them? Color me shocked! Michigan's offense being bad is very, very bad news because unlike teams like Tennessee and Utah, the defense can't bail them out in every game. Will Rogers was having his way with the Michigan secondary. Despite the defensive line getting in pressure, the backfield wasn't able to keep them from moving the chains. They just kept chipping away since Michigan was playing prevent the entire time. What's crazy is that this was Donovan Edwards' best game all season, and he still had less than 100 yards. The Wolverine offense is a shell of the former selves that you've known. Whether you want to place that blame on Connor Stallions or Jim Harbaugh, that's up to you. Eventually, Sharon Moore got tired of this and placed in another quarterback, Jack Tuttle. What did he bring to the table?
Tuttle, plenty of time in the pocket. Rifles picked off. What a play!
Yeah, that. So much for everyone on game day picking Michigan to win, as they've seemed to have forgotten that there's only one team here that can perform offensively. Good on the Huskies for getting revenge, as number 4, number 9, and number 10 go down. This is peak insanity in college football. Can it get any more chaotic than this? Yes, it can. The Golden Gophers have suffered 3 close losses this season, and they are trying to avoid yet another one. In a rare moment of Lincoln Riley history, the defense wasn't complete anal juice, allowing less than 400 yards. Of course, both sides of the ball can't be good at the same time, so today it was the turn of the offense not to get off the bus. Woody Marks had a pretty good day, but Miller Moss was on and off throughout the entire game. In the Wisconsin game, Moss was able to get away with it because of Fickell's play calling, but the same luck wouldn't befall them here against the Gophers. Max Brosmer was clean with the football, which meant they would eventually score. They had no intention of going away against the Condoms. Eventually, they gained enough confidence to drive down the field consistently and quickly threaten the Condoms into losing their lead. It would be up to a goal line stand on 4th and goal, and because USC is forced to rely on the defense, what came next was what Oklahoma fans rejoice.
Push him in! Wait, USC says no. Waiting for a signal.
And just like that, USC may be eliminated from playoff contention. You don't get a match between Ohio State or Oregon to win to push you back into conference contention. This makes the Penn State game just a must-win scenario for the Condoms, and if they don't, you can write it down that Alex Grinch was not the problem. The Cyclone has officially evolved into a typhoon. With the powerhouses of the Big 12 already taking losses, the conference needs a new frontrunner, and Iowa State fits that definition nicely. Rocco Becht is showing offensive inconsistency not seen since the days of Brock Purdy. One great pass would be followed by what the hell was that? Nonetheless, a dominant run game and a somewhat existent defensive line, Iowa State is repping the Big 12 well. With Oklahoma and Texas not breathing down their backs, this time there is a significant possibility that these people actually do something. I've spoken plenty on the Dave Aranda situation, but with the 2024 season already halfway through for the Bears, I'm not convinced they are making a bowl this year, which means that Aranda could be the first coach in the carousel. It'll be a tight race between him and Napier, whichever one gets the buyout first. Speaking of Napier, it looks like the buyout is delayed for a few weeks. Safe to say the Gus bus has officially derailed. One week you lose to the college football pretend reality show, and the next you go out and lay an egg against an in-state rival, which is coming off of their worst stretch in program history. Florida went back to the ways of the Todd Grantham defense, where you blitz the hell out of everybody and hope they don't Cam Ward themselves out of a mistake. Fortunately for the Gators, it worked this time. KJ Jefferson looked shook through the entire game, not ever really being able to establish any sort of consistent offense. Less than a 50% completion percentage makes me wonder why he even transferred in the first place. Of course, with the history of Gus Malzahn, the quarterback wizard, this result shouldn't be too surprising. Give credit to Florida for shutting down their offense, allowing the quarterback hokey pokey they've been doing to continue. It's another game of Graham Mertz being extremely efficient through the air. Despite a lack of a run game, the Gators did what they needed to do to get back into the winning record column. Good timing too, because from here on out, the schedule gets brutal, starting with your son-in-law on the road. If we lose to these scaly bastards again, I'm gonna shove an entire brick up my ass. And now you've witnessed the consequences of being undefeated in the ACC. Duke fans have convinced themselves that they are good because they beat James Madison's little brother by 1 point. With no sign of a good run game, it's no wonder that Georgia Tech handled you. Malik Murphy found out the hard way you can't complete half of your passes and expect to win a game. You know who can though? A team with 250 rushing yards. Save for Georgia Tech, as Jamal Haynes found his breakout game. While the Tech offense wasn't necessarily impressive, Tech had more of a stride in clutch time than Duke did, whose defense was tired as their offense couldn't get a first down by this point. Tech is one team where if you stall out too much, you'll run out of time entirely, as Georgia Tech loves to burn through as much clock as possible. Though Duke had a chance to make it a one-score game with 4 minutes left, they missed the kick, leaving the Jackets to ice the game by chewing out the rest of the clock. Fear not, Blue Devils, as you'll have a chance of redemption after a bye week as you get the college football circus themselves coming to town on a Friday night. Tech, on the other hand, gets the opportunity to pour one on the Tar Heels as Jeff Collins is welcomed back to town with open arms. The Jayhawks are on a collision course to reverting back to the punching bag of the Big 12. Lance Leopold's goals are from winning the Big 12 to just winning a damn game. The game plan against the Sun Devils will be shutting down Ken Skibbity, as he has been a problem for every defense. They found out real fast that apparently Sam Leavitt can throw the ball now. And throw the ball he did. 4 touchdowns through the air is the last stat I expected to see from this team. Jalen Daniels was better than weeks previous, but only because this time he wasn't having quarterback dysentery on the field. Quentin Skinner wound up having a breakout game with over 100 yards, and Devin Neal had a little bit of room every so often. Despite the much better performance though, the Sun Devils had no intention of going away. By the fourth quarter, it was a blow-for-blow spectacle. Daniels was throwing dimes and the Jayhawks had the lead with 2 minutes left. But now was the time for Skibbity to pop off, and pop off he did. And through him and the momentum he brought Leavitt, it was time for the Jayhawks to take another fiery fist of pain.
From the Kansas 3, Leavitt throwing to the end zone, looking for Tyson, he's got him! He's got him!
I guess some programs are just destined to lose in agonizing ways. Welcome back to the depths of hell, Kansas. Not all the bottom feeders could thrive at the same time. The Sun Devils are back in contention for the Big 12, just like 12 other teams. We'll see what you're really made of this Friday when the Utes come to town. God, I hope somebody there fields an offense. Knock knock, who's there? It's me, your old friend, the consequences of your actions. Throughout the entire week, Miami fans have been running their mouths about how everyone can suck it because they beat ref ball last week. That absolute monstrosity of an event was supposed to be the wake-up call for the Canes, but they didn't get the memo. Cal stomped a mud hole through the entire defense. The secondary was letting receivers right past them like security at a Travis Scott concert. The team looked entirely out of place. Cam Ward's Heisman campaign is still going strong, but only because he's carrying the team on his back. The literal X factor in Xavier Restrepo helps out the team too. But these were the only two to show up. Fernando Mendoza ironically completed only 50% of his passes, and the Golden Bears only had 73 yards rushing. They didn't have a single guy run for more than 20 yards. The Canes just constantly shot themselves in the foot. You managed to escape fate once, it wouldn't be happening again. Makes things worse when you realize this is the one team that was so bad, they lost to Florida State. But please, tell me more about Ed Reed and 5 rings, as they are very, very important to today's game of football. Up until now, I bet you didn't realize that Texas Tech and Arizona only had one loss. Of course, one of these teams is bound to have another. That privilege would likely go to the team with only one tool at their side. Yes, the Fafita to McMillan combo is strong, one of the best in the Big 12, but Texas Tech's Caleb Douglas and Taj Brooks are also strong. They also didn't have 4 turnovers in this game. That could probably play a part. Getting picked off by a defensive lineman should have been the sign to tell you that there wasn't any chance you were likely coming out of this with a W. However, when they needed him most, Quali Conley started to get some plays in, thus awakening a part of Arizona's offense they didn't even know they had. Though they were still down by 2, it was anybody's game, and with the ball, all they needed to do was go down the field, chew the clock, and kick the game winner. How could they screw that one up?
Fafita looking toward McMillan. He comes back to the football, circles underneath, wants the ball, punched out. Texas Tech has it.
Is it really that hard to hold on to the football in clutch time? That was just one of many turnovers that gave the game to the Red Raiders. Even if by the skin of their teeth, somehow Texas Tech is 5-1 and 1 win away from bowl contention. You've got a bye week before taking on the bad news Baylor Bears, so we'll see if you can avoid screwing that up. Arizona's loss would be detrimental, but it's the Big 12, so anybody still has a chance to be the spoiler for BYU and Iowa State. I'd pick BYU, but you can't trust any Big 12 team anymore. Huh, that's weird. It's almost the end of the video, but I feel like we're forgetting something. Oh. Oh no. Again? Really? Again? Forget the targeting call. How do you blow a 25-point lead at home? Of course they're going to go down the field and score now. The fact you even made it this close, you deserve to lose this game, and you know it. Once again, Miami avoids disaster because of ACC bullshit. First, Virginia Tech gets cucked by ref ball, and now Cal gets cucked by their own team. At least now we know that California teams are a correct fit for this conference. Shit belongs in the toilet, not in the sink. Somehow, someway, Miami, through the incompetence of the ACC, is still undefeated, and since they are 6-0, they join Indiana in bowl eligibility. Alright! Although you might want to win out, because who knows whether or not you'll get that automatic conference bid. Well, that is the end of Week 6. Here's a picture of my top 25 going into Week 7, as the gigantic bulk of upsets we have shifted things by quite the significant margin. As always, special thanks to my Patreon supporters who got to view this video a day early. To the rest of you, I say thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next week, and as always, power to Tardaria! Wait. Run that back. Something's not right here. Why are they at number 9? No. Wait a minute. It can't be. It's impossible. This is impossible!
Got a blocker in front of him, off the left side, lowers his shoulder, and powers to the goal line. Some mustard on that snap. Milrow near side, batted up, and it is intercepted. Fuck net to the corner. They'll run it, and another stretch, and this one's good enough. 2 of 3 on 4th down this year. Pavia wants to throw. He goes down the middle. It is caught.
We show you how to play some SEC ball. It don't matter where you're from. You're going to know what ball we play. We're going to next week ranked. That's fine. Alabama, you're next.
Pavia keeps it. Pavia picks up the first down, and the unlikeliest of heroes has guided Vanderbilt to what will be its first ever win against number 1. Diego Pavia very nearly went into the stands to celebrate with his brothers, but instead, they've come onto the field with him.
And now you understand why this is called college football chaos.